Okay. Well, welcome everybody. This is our first quarterly showcase for Open Concept Lab for 2024. Today, we are going to be just going over some of our accomplishments that we've had in the past quarter. And today's actually a little special because as our first showcase of 2024, we'll also be going into OCL's roadmap a little bit towards the end of the call. So we'll be going through a few demonstrations. We'll be talking through a few things, and then after that, we will run over to our roadmap and give a brief look at that. I wanted to thank everybody for joining. And John, anything you'd like to say before we start moving on?
No, I don't think so, Joe. Sounds great.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get some of the let's get some of our accomplishments out of the way and just give a bit of a summary of tickets that we completed in the past quarter. So I'll go through this relatively quickly. A lot of our ticket work has been in the terminology server in the API. We've been trying to make sure that everything is working as intended in our backend. In addition to that, we've been making sure that there's been a good amount of work on bugs and ensuring that, again, everything is working as expected. So when you, the community, have pointed out things to us that need to be working better, we've been trying to be very responsive to that as much as possible. We've also been doing some work in Term Browser and implementing some UI features, and you can actually see out of the 4 tickets, this is actually a pretty big number of points to go with it. So we ended up getting a lot of work done in the Term Browser. We also got some work done in OCL's Fire Core and also in starting to design out some new features, particularly for OCL v3, which I will be talking about later. One disclaimer I just wanted to give here is that a lot of the work of this quarter actually wasn't captured in tickets because we were doing things like planning for version 3 and doing road mapping work for OCL. And so those didn't always have a ticket. So in case you're thinking these numbers seem a little small, not everything we do is captured in tickets, but a lot of the work in the product is captured in here. And just to give a quick look at some bug fixes, we did some UI fixes in the term browser, such as map type filters not appearing in repo search. That is now fixed, and you'll be able to see that in there. For people who were trying to use index terms names, we found out that OCL didn't always accept those in the concept forms, and that's since been fixed. And then in the API backend, we've been making sure that, as I said, everything is working as expected, that there are not duplicate concepts appearing in sources and collections, that duplicate IDs don't happen when you are cloning concepts, and that our summary API is calculating correctly and making sure that our indexing is working properly to enable that. And sometimes concepts wouldn't be removed from a collection to auto-expand. So these are all things that have been fixed. If anybody notices any additional bugs, please keep sending them our way. We continue to fix them and make sure that they are working as expected. So with that, I wanted to get into a quick feature showcase. I just wanted to show off a few things in Term Browser that is newer and that some people may not be aware of. Let me go ahead and hop in there. We are in my profile on OCL Online right now. First thing that I wanted to show is a new set of attributes that we have in our sources. So for those who might remember, we have had auto assign IDs. We've had this section where you could say, when I create concepts and mappings, I want IDs to be automatically assigned. And you can choose for concept and mapping IDs and external IDs if you want those to be sequential or UUIDs and what you want to be generated for those. The relatively new part of this is that concept names and descriptions have external IDs that can be auto-generated too. So this is especially useful for OpenMRS implementations who require that this UUID is there before they can import. So thanks to the community for letting us know about this, and we were able to go ahead and get this added in. Another thing I wanted to point out was that in our sorting capabilities, and hold on, smoking status is what I'm looking for. We previously had it set up that you would have to do all your sorting manually when you were creating new concepts or adding new answers to a list. We've actually since added it that if, for example, I created a new Q&A mapping to add a new answer to the smoking status concept, you would actually have to come in here and put it where you wanted it to go in this list. We've actually since updated it that the Q&A, when you add in a new answer here, it will automatically sort to the end. So you don't have to worry about, did you miss the sort order or anything like that. OCL will just say, okay, great, we will add it to the end of this list, and then you can come in and arrange them as you need it for your implementation. That's an example there where I gave the sort order when it wasn't exactly it, but OCL will automatically assign a sort order if that's what you're looking for. I also wanted to show in that mappings filter, some people had pointed out to us that, hey, we can't filter by map type. This is something that we have since added so that you can go find exactly what map types you're looking for. It's especially helpful when you're trying to go clean up some concepts and you're like, oh, you know what? Okay, I need to update these narrower than mappings. We need to give them better map types. We need to update their codes, whatever it might be. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that we have done importable exports. And what I mean by that is that if you're working across OCL environments, for example, I might switch over to the staging environment where I've got a different CL example in here. I've been managing it in the staging environment, or perhaps you've been managing it in OCL Online and want to bring it into your local OCL, for example, like Kenya NHDD that has a separate OCL instance. If you would like to, you are able to actually export versions of content. And when you export those, they come out as a zip file. And OCL, I believe the zip file works. I had to make sure about this. Bulk importer is able to accept that zip file and then go ahead and bring that in. And you don't have to do any additional work to manipulate it or anything like that. OCL is able to take those exports and immediately start importing it without any additional work on your part. And yeah, you can see here in however many 8 seconds, we actually created a whole bunch of content. I'll go over to my profile and we should be able to see, yep, that brand new source. I just brought it from another OCL environment and brought it in here. All right, and only other thing, I do not have a Fire code system up right now, but we have also been working on Fire importable content. So I'm not ready to give that demonstration right now, unfortunately, but if people would like to get more information, we can talk about that later too. Only other thing that I wanted to showcase real quick in this version of the term browser was that we actually have implemented GitHub Actions into our deployment pipeline. And so I've got an example up here where you can start to see something that we built to make our deployments go much more smoothly. So essentially, we've set up workflows in GitHub that get triggered on certain events, such as code being merged into the main branch. And this benefits us because our team can do faster and more reliable deployments, make sure that our developers don't have to do so much manual tasks, and make sure that our deployments are consistent across environments. So in summary, these steps here basically validate the code quality automatically. They containerize the application. They document the changes with the release, and then they deploy the containerized application to an environment for testing. And we can do this all before we deploy anything right to production. So safer builds and more efficient builds is essentially what I wanted to hit here. So that's what we have for the demonstrations for OCL v2. The next thing that I actually want to get into is we've started development for OCL version 3. OCL v3, you may have heard of. Oh, John, do you want to say anything? I saw you come off mute.
Joe, yeah, just a quick question about the OCL Fire Core work. I don't know if you had a slide on that already planned later in the deck, but it might be good to give a summary of that. I'm happy to if that's helpful.
Yeah, go for it if you don't mind. I didn't have anything ready for it, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. Well, we've had a long-running project on the OCL Fire Core, which hasn't entirely showed up in some of the tickets here, and which was to allow the entire set of HL7's terminology content, which is called THO terminology.hl7.org. So we have an automated process to load all of the THO curated terminology resources, and which is several thousand code systems and value sets, and we're making progress on being able to be 100% compliant with that set of terminology. I think I don't actually remember the percentage and there's a validator at the end of the script, so it'll load all of those 3,000 resources or so, and then at the end it will do a comparison of what was imported compared to the original import scripts, and so there's like a list of features that we're still planning that are at. So some bugs have shown up there, those get resolved right away. The remaining items are more features for our like a better, more comprehensive support for Fire R4B. And so a good example of that is we don't yet support Fire code system properties and filters, but we do support what we call just custom attributes on the OCL side. So the plan is to enhance our information models so that our custom attributes basically could be compatible with the Fire property and filter approach, and that you could configure that at the source level. So there's a list of those that we're kind of working toward, and we'll make sure is included in a version of the roadmap moving forward, so you have a better sense of what the timeline is and what are some of those remaining gaps.
Thanks, John. And I actually remembered that I wanted to pull up this Fire imports repo that we have in GitHub. This is essentially our inventory of Fire resources that we are testing uploading. If there's any additional ones that we need to consider, please let us know. But we've of course got the big ones like THO, we've got Fire core content, we've got international patient summary, and we've actually got a good amount of SMART guidelines work that we've also been involved on. Whether it's antenatal care or family planning, STI work, a whole range of things. So please always feel free to send us more things if you think that we need to be testing other things. So, okay, with that, let's for real this time. We're going to go to OCL version 3. I'm going to just show the first look at the development work that we've been doing with our brand new designs, our new visual interface, some of our new workflows in here, etc. So this first thing that you're viewing in here is the dashboard. There's much that we need to add in here. We want to add in a few feeds, such as content that you're interested in that has been recently updated. We'll be making sure that you're able to see your own repositories. And you can actually see some of these buttons over here where right now we're on your dashboard, but there will also be a view in the future for my repositories and my bookmark repositories. Similarly to OCL, we do have our sign-in features in here. So if you want to go ahead and sign in and make sure that OCL can personalize your dashboard, then we do have that in here. And this is when you can start creating content and doing other things. The other thing that we have started is getting OCL search in here. And so you can actually see we have an updated search component here where if we want to, for example, let's look for blood, and so that's going to come up with all of our search content in here, and you can start doing some very, very basic looking through. We haven't built out everything, but you can start doing some of your familiar content management things. You can start to open up concepts and see some information about that. Although keep in mind, we have much to build out in here, such as seeing a concepts mappings and other associations. But anyway, we do have our filtering abilities over here so that you can start to find the content that you're looking for even better. And I actually want to go to a repository real quick just so that I can show one thing. And this won't show content right now. We haven't built this out, but we've actually fixed our search component up here to we only have one search bar. So if you are looking for blood within this repository, then this searchlight component will be able to do that. Or if you're wanting to go back to the global search, this component also does this. This searchlight component is going to be enhanced too, so that you can do additional filtering and other things. But for the time being, we've at least combined the idea of searching within a repository and outside of a repository into this single search bar. And John, anything else you want to add in here just about V3? If I forgot anything that I need to highlight, please let me know. But I mostly just wanted to give everybody a initial look at this is what the new look of OCL will be. And we are building this out little by little.
Yeah, nothing else to add there, Joe, but looks great.
Cool. All right, well, let me jump back over to the slides and give some updates from the community and other work that we've been doing. So as always, oh, yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Joe. I did want to comment on, V3 is a major focus of what we're doing right now, what the core team is focused on. So with V2, the current term browser product, we're not in maintenance mode yet. We're still doing feature development and bug fixes, but it's definitely less of a focus than it used to be. And by mid-year we're aiming to launch the new product. But for those who are interested in starting to get their hands on the new product sooner, we're not quite at a point where it's useful. Like there's not, you can't edit majority of resources yet in V3. But please do reach out if you'd like to get closer to that project. And the scope for it is matching all existing functionality, plus there's a significant amount of new backend functionality that'll be implemented to support it, plus quite a few new workflows. And so the workflows aren't necessarily allowing you to do things you couldn't do before, but it's making them way easier than it used to. The last thing about V3 that I'd mention is related to Fire, which in V2, Fire was originally, we didn't have the OCL Fire core when we started V2. We had a Fire service that was more of a wrapper around our core API, and you kind of could feel that in V2 that you were Fire wasn't deeply embedded in the application. Like you kind of had to look for it and know how to access the Fire resources in a Fire format. So in V3, Fire is baked in from the beginning, and you shouldn't need to think about upfront, like, is this Fire compatible? Is it not? Like it's or how do I retrieve a resource in Fire? Like you should be able to interact with something in Fire in the OCL API and go back and forth pretty seamlessly, and the application will help you interact with it. Operations will be much more front and center, so you could test out your resources. How would they behave in a data exchange environment in a Fire format, things like that. So there's definitely more to come. And a lot of those Fire pieces aren't ready yet in V3, but that'll be the next stages of this. So please do let us know if you'd like to get involved and be one of the early testers.
Right. Yeah, thanks for that, John. And we'll actually get into some of that detail later when we go through the OCL roadmap. So we'll, if you want to see more, then we actually will have more later in this call too. So, all right, let me hop back over to the slides, give some community updates real quick. We actually had a very recent CL release just a couple of weeks ago. The January 2024 version is out. You can expect new concepts for PIH, for MSF, new medication concepts for Kenya's National Health Data Dictionary, Also, some new COVID-19 vaccines were added in, and ICD-11 and ATC drug code mappings are gradually being added. CL is living on OCL online right now, and always feel free to visit it. And the release notes are available on OpenMRS Top. And thanks, Andy. Additionally, WHO ATC drug terminology has been recently released on OCL Online. So we right now have the 2023 version. There's 6,500 concepts in there. If you are wanting to start using WHO ATC, I recommend going to take a look at it and starting to see if these drugs are going to be useful for you. We've had a lot of community members say that they're missing a drug terminology, and some are looking for RX norm, some are looking for a WHO ATC. So this one was readily available to us, and we recommend go taking a look at it. It's in the WHO organization and the WHO ATC source on OCL Online if you want to take a look at it. And for those who use SNOMED GPS, the global patient set, 2023 update is coming soon to OCL, so stay tuned for that. The previous update is still on OCL Online, the 2022 version. Feel free to take a look at that, but I'm going to get this updated soon. And I also just wanted to give some community highlights. I want to point out some of the good work that's been going on in and around the OCL community. And very first thing is about some projects and partnerships. And John, I think you wanted to talk about this one a little bit. Can I throw it to you?
Yeah, so really excited to announce that at the end of last year, we formalized a statement of understanding between OCL and the Health Level 7 community. And there's
Raphael, you might be unmuted.
Okay.
So please let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, so we just formalized that.
All right, no problem. I'll call up. I'll get back to you.
All right. Yeah, Raphael, maybe you could go back on mute if that's all right. I think you might have accidentally come off. So the SOU with HL7 is like a 2-year collaborative agreement, and it's the statement of understanding is mostly focused on shared values and like naming some specific areas of interest of shared interest related to improving tooling around fire terminology services, and potentially even using OCL to support the curation of some of the HL7's curated content. Excuse me. And so we've actually started a small project that we just kicked off this week to work more directly with the HL7 community for the publication of all THO terminology content, which is great because some of those remaining resources that we're not quite able to publish comprehensively yet, it's because it's some of the final trickier questions about aligning the OCL and fire information models, and there's some important decisions that need to be made so that we can kind of maintain compatibility with future releases of fire. And then, so we will also be making all of the THO content available in OCL Online production once we make more progress on that, and likely in adding support for other import methods and export methods like fire NPM packages is an example of that. So more on that soon, but we're really excited to be working closely with HL7 on this. And the second is we also kicked off a project with the WHO at the end of last year. It's called the Smart Terminology Service Project. And so many of you are familiar with SMART guidelines, and an important part of making SMART guidelines successful, especially when you're trying to maintain a guideline as it changes over time, or if you're managing many of those smart guidelines, how you're harmonizing the terminology inside those guidelines is critical. And so OCL is being implemented as a terminology service in the WHO's infrastructure to support the management of the terminology resources that are part of those guidelines. And then also to add support to be able to use OCL in the build process for an implementation guide. And then finally to connect directly to the ICD-11 Fire service, so that the term browser would become, we already have some multi-server capabilities, but this would allow the term browser to interface with multiple servers simultaneously, and to be able to pull in ICD-11 content. And that's really interesting, because right now, if you are going to build a value set in OCL, you really can, it's not, the tools don't help you add content if it's not hosted on the same server, the OCL server that you're building that value set on. So the key thing that we're adding here is, what if you're trying to add content from a separate Fire server and into a value set that you're building locally, and that's what this would allow you to do. So again, a lot more info to come on that, because we're just kicking off the project, but we're excited to be able to announce that to everybody. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for that, John. Very, very excited to hear about these new upcoming collaborations and projects that we have here. And I hope that we can get you all involved in any capacity to help us move this along too. All right. I wanted to give a community highlight. We actually have some of our Brazilian partners in here, and we just want to highlight some of the great work that you all have been doing. You've been using OCL and Fire for national interoperability, with the goal to implement this interoperability using IPS and Fire for COVID response and vaccination tracking. Some of the challenges have been dictionary governance. Of course, governance is always a challenge that we face. And then syndicating, configuring, and change management for these code systems. And it sounds like one thing, and John alluded to some of these things that we're trying to change before, we need some additional Fire core capabilities, things for translations, concept lookups, and also be able to connect to the Fire implementation guide publisher. And so that is something that we're moving forward with on the OCL side. Brazil is going to be working with OCL, getting it established with the Ministry of Health, where they're creating a testing sandbox and doing some training on OCL, and also doing some Fire profiling and implementation support activities, such as creating questionnaires for smart guidelines and implicit value sets. So congratulations to the HL7 on the great work, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate. Another thing, we've got OCL out in the community. I just wanted to point out that we had a couple of great conversations with the LOINC community and at the Helena conference. In October, we did a presentation at the LOINC conference. This was a pretty US-centric audience, and we were talking to them about what does global health do when it comes to terminology adoption. At the Helena conference, we worked with some of our Kenyan colleagues to talk about their journey towards a national health data dictionary in Kenya. And I actually even have some pictures from the session and from some of our subsequent meetings in here. We actually had some great audience engagement during that session. And this panel consisted of some of our OCL colleagues, myself and John, and a couple of our Kenyan colleagues, Stephen Wanyi and Francis Njeri from University of Nairobi. And this is a great session to have. And if anybody would like to hear more about it, I'm very glad to share it. So I wanted to show some looking ahead. What do you have coming up in Q1 2024, and actually even beyond that? Because 2024 is the year of community here. This year, we are going to be focusing a lot on community activities that some that have been working well, and there's even some new ones we want to do in the coming months. Things that we've done in the past that worked well is publishing our community roadmap and having lots of community calls so that we can get people engaged. We've got our initiatives that we've talked about a little bit before, OCL version 3, and I'll talk a little bit about smart dictionaries soon too. Of course, these showcases, we've been trying to make sure it's clear that when we put new stuff out there that people are able to start taking it up and start using it. And then we're also making sure we're participating in community events. We've got the OpenHIE, the HL7 hackathons, we've got Global Good Innovator Summits. So we're just trying to make sure we're out there in the community. There's some newer things that we want to do in the coming months too. We want to document the history of the OCL community. We want to have a strong, robust community structure and make sure we have clear processes that people can follow. We want to put out a community and a developer code of conduct. We want to continue our partnerships with global goods and standards development organizations. John mentioned a little bit about a users group that we want to get people involved in so that OCL v3 can be the best it can be. And also doing a new OCL community fellowship to try to help move some of this work along. So if you want to see more about this and actually even see a review of 2023 for OCL, we published a blog post just yesterday about it. So go to our blog and you can read even more about what I posted here. And as I mentioned a little bit before, the 2024 roadmap is upcoming. We're aiming to have this published by early next month. And some of you probably already saw a little bit of it when we started putting out some calls to action and asking for some feedback. This was the Miro board that if you went in and started taking a look at, this is where we started initially getting our goals together. We'll be publishing this in a Word document kind of format, just so that on our website will be able to view it pretty easily. And we will talk a little bit about that in just a few minutes. But we want to thank everybody for giving the input that you already have, and maybe even some for additional input today. Then I also wanted to give some insight into just some upcoming technical initiatives. These are things that play into OCL version 3 and the Smart Dictionaries initiative. And if any of these or multiple of these are of interest, we do have ways that people can get engaged and help to work on this with us and collaborate with us. So currently we are working on canonical URL registries so that OCL will be directed to the right canonical URLs. And this makes sure that people can discover official content, that it's very clear where to resolve resources when you are, for example, making mappings or collections, and also just registering official content. We are also soon going to be working on content configuration so that you can configure a repository to follow the rules that you want. And that's helpful with some quick startup and reusing repositories and doing ongoing maintenance and validation and actually much more. Also, we've got some work on repository types coming up so that you can set up an OpenMRS dictionary or a Fire code system and not have to, kind of figure out how to do this as you're going. OCL can help guide you to set up the dictionary or the code system or whatever, how you would like to do it. We've also got checksums coming up, which that's kind of a maybe more technical term that essentially empowers some comparisons between different repositories, different versions of a repository, so you can do really quick comparisons and figure out, all right, what changed between one version of CL to the next version. I want to see a list of new concepts, for example. Checksums will very much help with that. And then we also want to do some advanced searching capabilities so that you can do more powerful searches. Maybe if you're looking for a very specific property or a custom attribute, OCL will help you to find exactly what you're looking for. So, okay, that is all that I have for right now. My next activity is to just take a brief look at the 2024 roadmap. We can do that in the last 15, 20-ish minutes of this call. Before we get into that, I do want to ask, do people have questions? Do they have comments? Anything you'd like to share with the community before we jump into our 2024 roadmap?
I see a little bit of discussion in the chat about content. I'm just curious if if there's certain content that people are interested in having published an OCL that is not available right now in OCL Online. I'm not sure if that any of that discussion was related to gaps or things that people are trying to get access to. Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe not. All right, go ahead, Joe.
Cool. Okay, well, I imagine we will have even more discussion after this. Let me go ahead and switch over to our roadmap draft document. Let me go ahead and also put this in the chat for anybody who prefers to read it on their own or wants to read it later. But I will be going through and sharing this. I'll just talk through the summary page for right now. There are much more detailed sections down below that start to say, what does success look like in these? Let me go ahead and zoom in so it's a little easier to read also. Great. Okay, so this little preamble is something you all might have seen before, where these goals are intentionally aspirational, and we want to make sure that people are encouraged to collaborate on these goals and champion them with us and things like that. And, we are dependent on certain resources, our timelines and our priorities may be influenced by that. So we very much encourage people who, if you want to see something move forward, please come to us and we will help you move that forward as a community together. So this next part just starts to say, what is OCL version 3 and how does it relate to that Smart Dictionary initiative? We've actually published a couple of blogs on this, so I won't read through this in detail. If you want to take a look at it later, you can. But the overall vision for smart dictionaries is smarter dictionary management. These key things that we're trying to do are implement some guided workflows so that users can complete their most common terminology management tasks. We want to make sure we are seamlessly integrating FHIR into the term browser. And we also want to nudge users towards the best practices for terminology management, like reusing curated content rather than having to create your own every time. OCL version 3 is that first major milestone in the Smart Dictionary initiative. And so we are aiming to, in mid-2024, hopefully by the end of Q2, release this first launch of OCL version 3. You already saw a little bit of it in that previous demonstration. We want to make sure we are adding in more features, more guided workflows, more things that will help you to do your job without necessarily having to come in with lots of expertise beforehand. So I want to talk just a little bit about here's things that we have coming up for the year 2024. We talked about OCL FHIR Core a little bit, where we want to make sure that OCL is able to be used to author and adapt FHIR-based computable guidelines in your information architecture. We've got a few goals here that we're primarily collaborating on with HL7 and WHO. We do have some PEPR collaboration in here too. We want to make sure that we have canonical registries, that we've published FHIR content in OCL Online, that we've integrated FHIR into the term browser itself. We also want to make sure we're monitoring the usage of FHIR and OCL so we can make sure that we're doing our due diligence for the community. And we want OCL's FHIR core to be fully compliant with R4, and maybe I should add B in there. I'll come back to that later. For our next goal, our next set of goals, I should say, we want to implement smart management workflows for smart dictionaries. We want to create clear and intuitive workflows for establishing and maintaining content. So this includes streamlining the creation of dictionaries like OpenMRS dictionaries, facilitating reuse and adaptation of terminology content, and support workflows for change management in OCL. So you can address, when someone comes out with a new version of content that you might be using, how do you want to use it? Do you want to incorporate it right away? Do you want to stay on the version you're at and give yourselves more time? We want to be able to give that power to you. We also are enhancing our search experience and making sure that when people are searching within OCL, whether it's globally or within specific repositories, we want to make sure you find what you need and be able to look through that relevant content. I already mentioned a little bit about advanced searching capabilities in OCL. We also want to enhance our capabilities to display information for concepts, like you can use your mappings and do comparisons. And we also want to enhance the search for timely return of relevant and trusted materials. You all might have heard the term walled garden before, where you want to make sure that you are seeing quote unquote official and trusted content. And so this is something we want to make sure is part of a good search experience. Also in our tools, we're doing multi-server browsing and management so that OCL's term browser can interact with terminology resources from multiple servers, whether they are OCL or FHIR servers. And that, for example, might be we're connecting to the ICD-11 FHIR service, and you can maybe start building content from there. So we have goals to have seamless connection between OCL and a FHIR terminology server. We want to support referencing resources from an external terminology server so that you can make value sets and concept maps. And we also want to do smart bulk importing and exporting features and content syndication so that you can manage content. If you do have multiple terminology servers, you want to be able to manage that content using OCL. We also want to promote standards reuse and collaboration. So more cooperation between terminology publishers and the implementing community, and make it just easier to reuse standard content in your own work. So main thing we want to, one goal, we want to promote the use of standardized content in OCL so that there is cleaner and more consistent terminology use as it fits the use case. We want to enable content configuration and validation. We talked a little bit about that earlier. We want to also facilitate communication on terminology content itself between the publishers and the implementers. Andy Cantor here is a good example here where it would be great for people to be able to ask questions about CL and do it through the application rather than through external tools like a spreadsheet. We also want to make sure we're improving our cybersecurity and compliance. We want to make sure that we are working with WHO to deploy OCL on their Azure environments and make sure that we've got good security measures in place where PEPFAR would be able to use OCL online in production. So to do this, we're making progress towards the OWASP top 10 security measures. We're implementing an advanced permissions framework. Currently, a lot of permissions are tied to, are you a member of that organization? And we want to have a little bit more of an advanced permission framework there. Then we also want to achieve some WHO cybersecurity and accessibility compliance, one of which being internationalization in the term browser. So that was a lot of our tools-based goals. And so now we want to get into some community-based goals. We are wanting to enhance OCL's primary website, the community website. This is when you go to openconceptlab.org before you get into the application itself, before you get into OCL Online. You want to go to this primary website and start discovering and connecting to other users and basically find the parts of OCL that you're looking for. So we have a redesigned version 3 of the community website coming out pretty soon. And we're also going to just make sure we're providing users with all that key information for using OCL, for participating with the community, and whatever they want to be able to do. You should be able to find it on our website. We're also wanting to do some community-supported events, make sure that we're providing community members that opportunity to connect on the works in progress and what work we're doing in the tools and in terminology. And so this is including some community calls, one of which you all are on right now. All our OCL-related questions, requests, discussions, and all that can occur. We want to make sure that all OCL user topics are connected to the relevant communities, whether it is in OCL's community or in outside communities like OpenHIE, HL7, OpenMRS, WHO. We want to make sure that we're collaborating well with all of our co-communities. We're also wanting to host some more official OCL events to engage the community and improve OCL's tools and content. We also want to do some communications, make sure that we are promoting the work of the community and of our tools, and also help community members to further engage. We're putting out regular updates regarding tools and technology to the community. We're promoting the community to the terminology management world. And we want to establish that hub for connection across our different communication mediums, basically so the community can just know how best to engage. We've also got some governance work going on, making sure that we're advancing this work of the community. We want to document our partnerships with other communities, with other global goods, and we want to publish clear governance of OCL as a product and as a community. We want to make it very clear how OCL works and make sure that if someone does want to get involved, they feel clear on here's how things are run, essentially. And then last but not least is the user support. We want to make sure we have good processes, tools, and documentation in place so that we can provide user support, we can report bugs, and things like that. So we want to establish this clear help desk support, do a troubleshooting process for users, and essentially just make sure there's that clear path for transparent and open ticketing that users are able to participate in and get that support they need in a timely manner. So that is the summary table. As I said, each one of these goals are spelled out more down below, where we've got the goal itself, we've got description of it and success measures, and when we're planning to complete it. I would like to put it out for discussion. As I put this in the chat already, if people would like to get in there, start making comments, that is perfectly acceptable. If there's anything you'd like to discuss right now, I invite people to raise your hands or just come off mute and say what's on your mind. What do you think about this roadmap? Is there anything that you feel like isn't represented well that you would like to see?
If you don't mind me putting you on the spot, Italo or some of our Brazilian colleagues, I'm curious if, when we spoke toward the end of last year, there were some items that you had mentioned that in terms of some fire capabilities or other kind of community aspects for OCL that would be nice to have. Do you see those things reflected here? Are there things that might be useful to add or aren't clear that would be helpful for your work?
Yeah, I remember that we talked about a few things. First of all, hi guys, how are you doing? I see everything there, to be honest. I don't know if I missed it in the last presentation, but I remember we talked about syndication, and I don't know if I missed it, but I don't think I've seen it. But I've seen the Fire Imports project, and I think that in a way that kind of works for syndication, or that's pretty much all I have to ask about is syndication.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Italo. That is interesting. We're definitely going to be, some of the work that we're doing with HL7 is going to help us make some progress toward that, but it may not be, full-blown syndication service at that stage. But that'd be interesting to think through some of those requirements that, and if there's some other gaps that we want to make sure are reflected here.
In addition to that, I don't have anything else to mention. I think you guys have done a great job, fantastic job, and we're just following your work.
Vlad, I don't know if I could call you out also. Just curious if there are things that from your work with PEPFAR and Datum that you think would be helpful to have reflected here as well.
Thanks, John. Well, right now, I don't think there is anything because I know you guys have been supporting us for the last several years, and most of all our needs have been met. We had discussion yesterday, right? The retrospective where we reflected on a couple issues with the production environment, but those were, you know, not something probably should go on your roadmap. But I don't, at least right now, I don't think there's anything I can think of. So.
And glad as far as putting in these collaborators, I think we might have been a little conservative about adding PEPFAR's interest into these. If there are anything in here that PEPFAR, for example, would be especially interested in seeing and would like to be added in here, if there's anything that you can think of, please let us know. I tried not to attach PEPFAR's name to anything that I wasn't certain that they were interested in. But if there is anything you're like, oh, that is an exact PEPFAR priority for OCL, please let us know. We'd love to make sure that that's represented.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe.
Right. Do we have any other input, any other questions? Even if they're not related to the roadmap, any questions about 2024, anything you'd like to see from OCL that maybe we haven't touched on today? Anything else at this time? We still got 5 minutes left for discussion. So if anybody has anything they'd like to talk about, then now is a great time.
Well, maybe I could just say, as we're closing here, just Joe, a huge thank you to you for your leadership and putting this roadmap together and holding input from so many different organizations and projects and scopes of work. And I think this is a really awesome and compelling roadmap for 2024. And just, you know, thank you to everybody on the call for your collaboration and partnership over the year. And that's gotten this project to this point. It's definitely been an exciting time of growth for the OCL community. And so really appreciate all of everybody's participation and collaboration in this.
All right, great. Well, I went ahead and put it in the chat. Thanks everybody for attending and for participating. We would love to see you again in the future. And I hope that we see and talk to all of you as we make our way through this roadmap this year. Here's to a good 2024, the year of the community. It's the year about you, and we love to have you involved. So thank you for starting it off well with us. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Great job, guys.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.